Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Bad Dating Podcast. I'm Michael James. Welcome to episode 11. Have you seen a bird? Have you seen a plane? Do you know about the Hawk Tuah girl? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. But before we begin, please take the time to like, subscribe, and comment. Especially we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on podcast services, we're on Instagram. Any place you can like and share. We're just trying to keep the engagement up because that way I know what I can talk about and find out from you, the audience, as to what you want to know and how we can help improve and continue to, just keep engaging with the listener. So please take the time, especially if you don't even watch or listen on YouTube. Please just go over to YouTube services as well. All the engagement helps, but specifically on YouTube, that's going to help a lot. So now, have you seen Hawk Tuah? It's a video that on TikTok that's been going around getting shared. And so maybe you haven't heard, or maybe you've only heard a little bit, but you don't know. So Hawk Tuah is a video about a girl who gets interviewed, and I was watching more of the interview where she was just talking about dating and that she's like all her views on it. And then the interviewer asked her, hey, so what do you do to drive your partner wild? And what does the girl say? That she hot and spits on it. Yeah, the Hawk Tuah. That's where it comes from. Hawk Tuah. Yeah, it was funny. It's all over the internet. And so we're going to talk about this because this is the Bad Dating Podcast. And a lot of people, unfortunately, date badly. I know I've been there. And I know you have as well. So let's talk about it. So we're watching the video and it's funny, but why is it so popular? Why is everyone talking about it? Why is it on Joe Rogan podcast? Why is it everywhere? Because it's one of those things that a lot of people talk about, but not a lot of people are good at. And we're talking about blowjobs. We're talking about pleasing your partner, being pleased. It doesn't have to just be about a guy getting one, your partner. And that's what this really just comes down to. But someone just enthusiastically talked about something that went viral. So guys love it because it's just like, yeah. And girls love it because it's like, it is funny. But you can learn from this. Everyone can learn from this. And how does that impact dating? Well, that's, again, what we're going to be talking about. So why should you learn anything from this? Well, what is it? The fact that it went viral says a lot. People have thoughts on pleasing their partner and what goes into it. And the truth be told, a lot of people are making it up as they go along because guess what? What you're going to do is if you're dating and you get to that point where any sort of intimacy is going to happen between you and the person you were seeing or are seeing, whatever, you're going to kind of default to your bag of tricks, your thing that worked on maybe the last guy, the last girl, your last partner, or if you're someone who's never had a partner, you're going to be making it up based off of what you've seen and just everything that you've been heard or you heard about, and all that stuff's going to influence things. So knowing that, going back to why this was viral, it's going viral because that person was so enthusiastic and like in a public space, talking about it, getting interviewed. And that's kind of the foundation of doing things well, is being enthusiastic about that, because this is one of those topics that we don't really talk about. A lot of people, I've heard people say that they have skills, and then come showtime, it's just like, really? I guess we have a definition of what skills are. So this is why learning and being able to see that reaction, and maybe even just consider, maybe this conversation is going to get you to think of like, hey, is there anything I can do to improve? And everyone should have that thought process. So I don't care, guy, girl, I don't care what you're into. Can you improve in maybe making your partner go wild? That's why that video has generated so much, is just because first she's passionate, enthusiastic, and without hesitation, just saying some wild stuff that people do. Some people do well, just like in that video, and some people never do anything close to that. And it's sad. Like, cool, especially if you don't even like doing that sort of thing. For me, if I'm seeing someone, if they have no interest, no passion, they're just not going to do that, I'm never going to ask them for that. And also, if they're bad at that, I'm kind of going to skip that. Straight up. I have definitely dated people who were very passionate. And so for me, if you're passionate, enthusiastic, that's a A+, because just finding that sort of some person with that sort of energy is rare. And it also depends on where you're from. In California, that's rare. If you go to some other states, we're just like, yeah, well, we're inside half the year because we're stuck inside and we have less to do. For some reason, it just seems like certain states or certain areas, people get a little bit more skilled thanks to their time being inside. So that's just what that seems like. Again, I could be wrong. There's no stats on this, unfortunately. But yeah, you could get better because maybe you're not good. Yes, I've been there where some people will talk a good game about what they're going to do, what you're in for. And just like, for me, I learned a long time ago, it's like, let me just tune that out. Because a lot of people are just talking, and it takes a special person to be able to either think about improving when it comes to intimacy or actually being really good. Sometimes if they're crazy, if someone's crazy, for some reason, the mind and ability to please just are disconnected. And again, the crazier someone is, usually the better they are at loving, because they're just, like I said, the brain's just not connected to anything related to what they're doing. I don't know. It's weird. Guys will even tell you, girls will even tell you, sometimes the best person that they've ever been with was crazy as hell. And that's why they can't be with them, because it's just like, no, yeah, that was good. But yeah, she keyed my car. He was good, but yeah, he showed up at my job every day for 6 months. Stuff like that is like, so, but that's okay. For me, that passion, well, that's great. If someone's, like I said, if someone's not that good, it's fine. I will deal without that, because I would rather have someone who actually you can connect with, who you're actually like, oh my God, this works in every other aspect. Because hey, guess what? There are sometimes other alternatives. There's the main alternative. There's just hitting a straight homer, just a good old fashioned way. So yes, well, a good Hawk Tuah is nice. If you can just do the basics, we can just stick with that. That's fine. Because like I said, a lot of people are bad, and there's I feel like there's just a big disconnect. So guys, if you are bad at anything related to intimacy or just mid, you will get told in a fight, or that will come up way more. Yeah. And if you're great, that'll come up way more too. Ladies, here's the problem for you and for guys too, because it's our fault. Sometimes guys gaslight. Oh, shocking. I know, 2024, guy gaslighting. But in this regard, the gaslighting isn't spinning you up on something and making you feel crazy. He's spinning you up and making you think that you're better than what you are. And this happens a lot. And you're saying, oh, that doesn't happen to me. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's happening right now. Why? Because coming from the male perspective, why would a guy do this? Well, he may know that sometimes a lot of girls can't handle negative feedback. It will be completely destructive if you even remotely care about the person. Which is like, yeah, if I told you, hey, if I was saying any sort of nice way to kind of just let you know that you're not that good, it's just okay, it's just mid, why would I want to do that? As a guy, I'm not going to do that. If you're seeing someone and it's very casual and you're fine with saying that, that's fine. And you're just you don't even care. But then also, why would you say that to a woman? Or again, this can happen both ways. But again, I'm just saying, in my experience, I know a lot more women who walk around having never heard negative feedback. And I know guys who hear negative feedback, regardless of if it's true or not. Just like, hey, yeah, you ticked her off, and you ticked off her, him, whoever your partner is. And then the person's just saying everything to chip at you, and it's not true. And then they're kind of recanting and taking things back when things get right. And like, they will hit you up 20 times for that thing. There's like, oh, you said this was mid. It's weird. You always show up. You always try to do everything to get you back. So women, go from this standpoint. Imagine this. Your partner's gaslighting you. If you accept that and then just work on the improvement side, if you're just going in thinking like what's the imposter syndrome. If you go in with imposter syndrome thinking like, oh my God, I'm not that good, I need to whatever, you're more likely to improve and to keep working to get better than the, oh no, I got this on lock. Because maybe you do, maybe you don't. And I can just tell you, as a guy, I've been there, it's just like, yep, it's great. Even though it's just like, the signs are there. I can say if a blowjob takes longer than 10 minutes, for me, it's dropping from, if on 10-point scale, it's out of the 7 range. It's just dropping at that point. Amazing, stellar, 5 minutes flat. We're just like, bam, oh, God dang, this person is skilled. If you talk to some women about what their experiences with guys, girls, their partner, making them happy, for some about the same. Others, there's a little bit more that is involved in going to it, but yeah, about there. And then up to 10 is just like, wow, that's still pretty good. And that's that ballpark of what pretty good is. Assuming someone doesn't have any sort of, issues that delay things and make things harder to achieve. Like, yeah, that's what that is. And I'm saying this as someone who I would never tell someone, oh, this was bad, or I didn't enjoy this, but there will be some signs. And I'll still gaslight the person a little bit for that because, yeah, it's just not something that I need to take a stand. Of all the things I've ever taken a stand on, right or wrong, that is not going to be one of them. It's just kind of like no point. If you're trying to have it happen again, why would I just be like, whatever? Literally, like, you just kind of have to pick and choose your battles. And a lot of guys will just kind of like lie on that because that is easier to just do that than just kind of be honest and like, yeah, guy, I'll say it like this. For a guy, as a guy dealing with someone, it's kind of like someone with a fragile ego is kind of like a deer. If you make any sort of sudden movements, get too close, do anything that spooks them, they're going to pop up and they're just going to dart. And that's what that is like. If you're seeing someone and you're kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to, it's just okay. This is just a 6 out of 10. Guess what? A 6 out of 10 is better than nothing ever happening. And as a guy, I know that. A lot of women know that. No. A lot of women actually don't know that. I realize that because sometimes people, I had a story time. I had a conversation with a friend, a just friend, who was, talking about their fantasies and what they told their partner. And when they told me, kind of like I had made a joke that was like a scale 1 to 10, it was like a 2, 1 or 2. And they told me something that was like a 7. I was like, I was at a loss for words. And I kind of like had to take the route of explaining. I was just like, yeah, hey, it's kind of like you were just play fighting, or we were play fighting, and I did something that was like a 1 and you did something with like a 7, and just like, yeah, I'm kind of like a little speechless. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry if I offended. I was like, no, not offended. But like, if I'm feeling this way, the person you were seeing may have exactly felt that way. So like, you have to be very delicate, unfortunately, for some, where it's giving someone too much information, because like you'll be hitting someone with a 7 in terms of too much, and then they can't handle that. So like, guys, girls, doesn't matter. If you're talking about making your partner happy and you're getting their feedback or just seeing what they like, because some people can tell you exactly to a T, almost to a detriment, where it's just like, I need this, this, and this, and it needs to happen in this sequence or else nothing will ever happen. Like, ladies, sometimes you guys will get in your head about that, and that will ruin your ability to get to the promised land. And that's one of those things you have to be concerned with, is like, hey, are you just getting so fixated on what you want that nothing else, oh, it's not that, so it's never going to happen? Well, yeah, then you will ruin your ability to get there. Guys, you might need to be open to hearing feedback. Women, everyone needs to be able to help them to hearing feedback as to like, or like sometimes it could be just through a direct conversation, which can be uncomfortable, especially if you just thought you like, oh man, I was the best in this. I was just Michael Jordan. And someone's just like, whoa there. You're kind of more like a Shaq. You just kind of barreled in and fouled me, but we won. So good job. But that's the thing, is like, you don't know. So maybe it is through a direct conversation. First, you may have a partner. It's great. You have a partner who is like the girl from the video, Hawk Tuah, where she is just like enthusiastic and willing to talk about it and willing to be just like on front with it. That's great. But a lot of people don't. And so maybe you need to, if you don't have the ability to communicate and maybe your partner is not really like that receptive, it may just take listening to the signs. I had told you, hey, 5 to 10 minutes goes from great to like still pretty good. Like, so if you know that going in, and then you're at like 20 minutes, or you're getting like kind of waved off, like, hey, we're going to sub out, we're going to do something else, that is a clue. So look for those clues in the person's reaction, the person's body, and stuff like that. That's a great way. You don't, maybe it's like, I don't really want to ask, but I can look for this. But like, you should be comfortable with asking, or maybe not asking. Sometimes put on a movie, put on something, find some way that like, hey, well, what would you like? Bring that up, and being in that situation where it's kind of a little bit more comfortable. But then also be careful, because if you're in the situation, like I said, don't be like my friend who went a little wild with their request to their partner, because you have a chance of ruining things. How? Because that's not someone's intent. And I know that. And I had this conversation with a different friend. Oh, well, I didn't intend to. And it's just like, no, you didn't intend, but like, that's how that feels. And it's like, okay, cool. Genie's out of the bottle. So ramp up in your conversation or how you're approaching this. Do not just go full bore for the thing you want, because while that is very easy and you're like, okay, well, I just need this. It's just like, whoa, slow down there, Turbo. It's like everything else. You need to progress and get there, because maybe what you want is simply what the girl was offering, Hawk Tuah, or any of the equivalents, whatever. And so that could be fine. That, again, that could be a 1 or 2 on someone's scale. And there's like, oh, you said this, that's fine. Or you may be asking something way out of someone's comfort zone. And that's how that leads into bad dating, is because you just went to the point where you said something wild. You said something where it's just like, I can never look at you the same way as like, man, I'm going to be polite. And then if this doesn't work out or whatever, it's just like, oh my God, I will always remember this person because they wanted something wild. And that wasn't what I was looking for. and that causes a little bit more conflict. So to avoid conflict in dating, when talking about intimacy, you need to start gradually build up. Do not just test someone, gauge someone's reaction, or do those things that like are a little disrespectful. And it's disrespectful because, well, what is the other person supposed to do? You're just jumping straight to what you want versus, hey, maybe ease them in, get them, like, you will more likely get a better reaction if you gradually get someone there versus 0 to 60. First, if you are on that type of time where you just want to get straight to that, then, more power to you, but you get what you get when it comes to the response of, hey, this may not work out. If you aren't really into like maybe the long-term aspect, or that's something that's the most critical to you, cool. You should look for that when you're dating. If it's not, like for me, that's great. That's a great perk, but that's not what I look for when I'm turns to dating someone, for actual dating someone. So knowing that, that's kind of like lower on the list. So yeah, I'd have that conversation and then I'm not going to obsess or whatever. I've been in that situation where it's just like, okay, someone's getting a little obsessive and like weird when it comes to like, hey, if you're going to do something and just like, no, and they can't respect it. Like, don't ever ask anything that you can't handle a no to, or you need a answer to, because you're not entitled to it. So in that situation, so I'll go into a quick story time. I was seeing someone, kinda. And things finally start popping off. All they wanted was backdoor play for them. And girl, that's all you want? No. Cool. I'm not into that. I say that, I make that as a joke. That's a starter joke. Hey, I'll leave your butt alone. You leave my butt alone. I've seen some girls who are like, oh, thank God. And then I only had that once where some girl was like, oh, and like the look of disappointment. And you're just like, oh, okay, well that's clear that what you're into. And that's why having a conversation about that is important, because if you're just jumping straight to the thing you want, you may ruin your relationship. If you're actually dating someone, or if you're talking to someone, you may cause things that become a little bit more tense, a little bit more stressful. And that's not necessarily what you want. That's why you kind of need to like understand like what is the value of it to you. The person who I only want something that like, hey, I don't do. Cool. That's actually great that she jumped straight to that, because that just broke everything and made that sit and like, all right, well, yeah, this isn't going to work out because that's what you're obsessed with. I'm not doing any of that. Cool. But then for the person who's just like, oh, I love it, for the guy she might have met that would be all about that, then he's just like, oh, I know. And then you're just on the same page. So it's just trying to find out, what page are you trying to be on? Do you talk? Do you communicate? Do you figure this out together, or do you not? And did you just kind of force someone into a situation where they're dealing with it? So please learn from Hawk Tuah girl. Find a way to like either be bold or be able to approach and say the things that you want, or indicate or lead someone to that path. And then just try to be respectful about it. Because if you can, you're more likely to find success with the person you're seeing, to get the thing that you want. But then also, like, why would you want to be bad at anything? Like, again, that's where the imposter syndrome, anyone with that, like, trust me, as someone who has that, among other things, because for me, I was bigger. And so when you're bigger and you're very self-conscious and everything else, like, that kind of just sticks with you. And then so you're always going to be kind of concerned or whatever in the back of your head. And so that will make you try to learn and grow, because it's just like, oh, cool. When you're 300 pounds, for me at least, I'll just say it like that. For me, when I was 300 pounds, oh, yeah, you feel self-conscious when you take your shirt off. Even when I was down and bounced around 250, you feel self-conscious, which is like, ugh. So guess what? You're going to be, not everyone, but for me, I was way more apt to kind of listen to what someone was saying, and then kind of listen and look for how they're responding physically, and just be all about figuring out what they want, what they like, what they're into. And that's why you should be willing to take that in, because it's going to just be beneficial for everyone if you sit there and you take a look and find out this is what they like. Because if you're willing to spend the time and the effort to be passionate about what they like, oh man, especially if hopefully you have someone who is just as passionate about what you want. So that way it's like, oh, you guys are both happy, because at the end of the day, you're only doing this for your guys' enjoyment. And maybe you find someone who's like just passionate about doing it, and you're just passionate about receiving it, and then that works. But there's a lot of bad dating out there that just comes from people who are only a little bit more self-centered about themselves. And that's what happens when someone gets screwed over by a bad partner, or gets screwed over by bad dating. And so like, there's enough of that going on. And that's why, like, for me, I always try to encourage people to avoid some of the things that lead to bad dating. And that's why I start this podcast, is because like, it's a better experience if you're doing things in a way that like has better results. So I did the previous episode on dating with intention. What I learned from dating with intention that relates to Hawk Tuah girl, that if you're dating with intention and you find someone who you actually connect with and that you're actually interested in, you may take someone who is like a 5 at whatever they are into or whatever you're into, and they may be passionate about learning or become passionate because you're their person and they actually are a little bit more invested. And then they'll get to an 8 because they're like, well, yeah, I didn't really care about just doing this for whoever, but like, I like you and you like me and we're investing in this. So I'm going to get great at this. And I've been there too, where like, I was like, story time. I was in college. I was kind of seeing someone, we kind of broke up, and I was just kind of like laying into it. Was like, yeah, we weren't willing to do this. You weren't willing to Hawk Tuah. I'll just say it like that. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to come over. I'm going to do that. And then I'm never going to talk to you again. I was like, fine, bet. And then she came over and she did it. And then that became a little bit more of a dynamic relationship where it's like, oh, you actually like was taking the time to learn and get good. And I was like, yep, saw her for a long time. Versus the person, if you're just seeing someone who like is not invested in you or isn't just as invested in you as other people, they kind of have no reason to learn, no reason to be passionate, and no reason to like to do that. Like, well, cool. Like, it shouldn't even be a flip of the coin as if that's going to be wow. That should just be like, yeah, this person should want to do this and you should want. We can't stand on should too much. The goal is, if you want someone who can do that, you're going to have to be in the situation where like that's likely to happen. Trust me, maybe you get lucky and you find this girl, or you find someone who's like this girl who like is just passionate. But for most of us, we're going to have to kind of do some work. And that's the thing too, is like, it's probably going to be the topic for the next episode, where it's people being afraid to do work. Everyone wants a result, but no one wants to do the work to get the result. Well, anyways, thank you for your guys' time. That will be the episode for today. I look forward to just following up a little bit more in the week. Please take the time, since you've made it through the end of the video, follow us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok if you're on there, Bad Dating Podcast. We're also on Instagram as well. Please take care and have a good one.